Hey folks, so we're a few days past Easter Sunday and the great celebration of Easter Sunday. I want you to know over the last couple of weeks I've been praying for each of us. I've prayed for each of our churches and each of our pastors as we were planning and preparing and gearing up for this great celebration at our churches, and you know, a lot of that I guess was just prompted by the obvious. You know, it is the major celebration in our churches, and you know, we come together and as pastors we want to help for people to realize the significance of Easter, that everything is different because of what Jesus did for us, the ultimate sacrifice, and how we can and should and will rejoice because death has been conquered and everything is different when we realize that. And helping people to celebrate that afresh. I thought a lot about us as we were making plans, thinking about how there'll be folks that might not come to church at any other time, but would come at Easter and maybe at Christmas as well. But I wanted to wait and just share a little bit right after Easter, because I also know as leaders, as pastors, oftentimes as we have such a build-up for something so important in the life of our church, that we can miss personally engaging with how our lives are different because of Easter. I also know that with all of that work just in our humanness, sometimes, maybe more often than not, for those of us as leaders, we've put all of our energy into the plans for Easter Sunday and the preparation and trying to think through and pray through how we can assist other people. And maybe that's a good time for someone to assist us. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes and just share. First of all, to let you know how much I appreciate you. And also to maybe just give us a glimpse, maybe kind of help for all of us to just reflect on how the Lord wants for the celebration of Easter to be personal for us too. I don't have anything really new to share here, but I wanted to take a few minutes and reflect with you on a portion of Scripture that comes after Jesus walks out of the tomb. In fact, I've been reflecting on it personally and asked the Lord to challenge me in new ways. It's this portion where Jesus has already appeared to the disciples. And then in John chapter 21, there's this account where the disciples are out fishing. Peter and the boys have gone out, and in fact it was Peter, it says in 21, that says, you know, I'm going out to fish. Maybe just, you know, because of all the excitement at the very first Easter Sunday, right? Some of the things that were running through Peter's mind, probably some of the discussions they were having behind closed doors, and just let's go do something normal, something that we like to do, something that we know how to do, and so Thomas and Nathaniel and James and John say, hey, we're going to go too, and so they all go out, and yet they didn't catch anything that night. It actually is reminiscent a little bit of a scene earlier on where Jesus is teaching, and he has Peter shove a boat out so he can preach from the boat to the crowd, and then after he's done preaching, he says, well, Peter, go ahead and throw your net in. And Peter responds, well, we fished all night, Lord, and we didn't get anything. And he does it anyways, and you know the account. And then he pulls in a full net of fish, right? And it's in that account, actually, shortly after that account, when they come back to shore, it's when Peter and a couple of the other disciples make the decision that they're going to follow Jesus. Because Jesus says, now you're going to fish for men, right? So this is kind of cool that it's happening with Peter. So Jesus is on the shore, and the account says, this is John chapter 21, verse 4 says, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize it was Jesus. And so he calls to them, hey, do you have any fish? And I'm guessing right about then they're starting to realize, hey, it's Jesus again. And he says, throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you'll find some. And when they did, they were unable to haul in the net because of the large amount of fish. And then John says to Peter, it's the Lord. And they realize, and they all come in, they have this great celebration, right? Well, I looked at this with some fresh eyes. And I think it's an incredible physical illustration of Jesus giving just some simple direction and the disciples following it. And I think it was obviously an incredible time for Peter, because it's shortly after this portion where Jesus talks to Peter very sincerely. In fact, John 21 is the last chapter of John, right? It's when Jesus says, feed my sheep. It's when Jesus asks Peter how much does he love him. It's when there's this real personal thing going on between Peter and Jesus. And I thought to myself, right after Easter, there's this great reminder in this simple illustration for me, and maybe for all of us, that things, because of Easter, never have to be the same. They never have to be discouraging. We have not just the hope, but the realization that Jesus is a part of our lives. I'm kind of thinking maybe some of us coming off of Easter and serving others and trying to put together environments and discussions and speaking to individuals in ways that will help for them to experience afresh trusting Jesus in brand new ways. Maybe it's good for us, maybe it's good for me to help us to do the same thing. So I look at this portion and I think about you and I think about me. I think about how easy it is for us to be thinking about what we're doing for other people. And for Easter and for the hope and expectation of Christ doing new things in our lives to become just a teaching tool and not engage in it personally. So I looked at this portion, and over the last couple of days I thought, I wonder where the Lord would like for me to adjust my behavior. It was just a simple adjustment. Take your net from this side of the boat, put it on this side of the boat, right? Almost seems a little ridiculous to someone that's a fisherman. I mean, they know why their net is on that side of the boat. It's routine. They do it for a reason. I don't know what the reason is, but maybe the current's running this way, so the fish would come in this side. And what difference would it make if I go 3 feet over here and drop the net over here? It doesn't make any sense, really, does it? But I think to myself, for the folks that we talk to all the time, you go through life and you're so used to having to put up with certain things being in your life, maybe stumbling blocks, and you don't have to have that stumbling block anymore. Just adjust your life a little bit. Put down that thing that you're dependent to and learn to live different. Just a slight adjustment. Follow Jesus. Put your net on this side instead of this. Put your effort into this instead of this. Allow for your commitment to Christ to change how you do life. And then think of the different parts of life and allow the Lord to give you freedom in those parts. And so I thought, Lord, what are some parts of my life that you want for me to do differently? And I said, Lord, I did. I just had some personal time with the Lord and said, Lord, would you challenge me? So I thought I'd go through the same exercise with you. And maybe this is helpful. I just went, why don't we just go through the list? The list, to be the person that God's called you to be. If you're married, to be the partner. If you're a parent, to be the parent. Before you think about being the pastor. That's kind of what I did, actually. I had an honest time with the Lord and said, personally, Lord, where would you like for me to be growing differently? What aspect of my life isn't really open enough to you? Maybe it's a good conversation for you to have too. Lord, personally, are there some areas of my life where I need to be adjusting things? Where there's some issues. Maybe it's in the kinds of things I'm allowing to seep into my mind, in the kinds of things I'm allowing myself to look at, in the ways that I'm dependent on something other than you that can keep me from being all that you want me to be. I encourage you to have an honest conversation with the Lord about you and the Lord personally. Take some time today or this week and just ask the Lord, what am I holding on to that I need to let go of? What am I continuing to do in a pattern like I used to do, where if I made this slight adjustment and trust you in a brand new way, I would experience the freedom that you died for me to be able to experience personally. For those of us that are married, maybe this is a good exercise as a couple, or maybe just you as you think about your relationship with your spouse. Lord, where have I gotten into a rut? Or I need to make that slight adjustment and just do things just a little differently. Maybe not take things so personally. Maybe not take some things for granted. Maybe to appreciate my spouse in a new way. Maybe to forgive a little more quickly. Maybe to cut my spouse some slack in ways that I wish my spouse would cut me some slack. Maybe to bring excitement into my married relationship. Not because I feel like it, but because it's the right thing to do, and because you give me the strength to do things, Lord, that are beyond just the way I feel. Maybe those of us that are parents. Isn't it true? For so many of us in the ministry, for so many pastors, you hear stories. Some of them have become real in our lives where other people have come to know Christ and have a vital relationship with Christ because of our ministry, and we've got a child or children who weren't a part of that party or haven't been yet. Maybe it's good for us to just kind of reflect and say, Lord, as a parent, Lord, you've given me this responsibility, and are there some ways that I should be adjusting my relationship with my child or my children? Let's not make the mistake of providing for everyone else, but not being there in the right ways and in the right places for our children. Maybe that's a good conversation for us to have, and to realize that the Lord will give us the words when the words need to come. He'll give us, he'll take care of the situations when we need to step away from something else to concentrate on our children and give them the love and attention that they need, so that they know that mom loves them. They know that dad loves them. They know they can count on us as parents. And then maybe even as pastors. I was thinking, I was going over a couple of the monthly reports just recently, and in our monthly reports we've tried to do this very practically. So there's places where just the way life is, sometimes we're falling behind, and that's the rhythm of life. But maybe take one of those places where you really feel like you're falling behind, and maybe we're falling behind. Maybe for some other reasons, because we're just too stinking busy. Or maybe we're falling behind out of pride. I've been there. I have this thing where I try to pray, Lord, as you unfold what you're doing in Keystone Conference, and this is for me in my role, I promise to give you all the praise and honor, Lord. But all of us in our humanness, we find these times where our pride gets in the way of us looking to God and saying, Lord, help me to see people with your eyes. Help me to see these situations with your eyes. Help me not to do things out of my own confidence or my own understanding, but to trust you in brand new ways so that your ministry goes forward in the way that you know it can go forward. Sometimes I think we really do limit ourselves in ministry by just making assumptions and doing things in some ways without the humbleness that we need to. So maybe it's a place where you feel like you're falling behind, or maybe it's some of the goals that we have that we really sense the Lord has given us, and yet we're not quite getting there. Maybe it's just having that honest conversation with God, or maybe that's one step in the process for us to just say, Lord, help me to see what I'm missing here and to not be stubborn, but give me, Lord, your wisdom and your discernment, and help me to realize I don't have it all figured out, but to see things through your perspective. Not just that it's some outrageous faithful leap. Sometimes it's a very humble step. And the Lord just opens that door. And we've all been there and seen the Lord to do all of those things. But I just thought I'd take this opportunity to remind all of us of stuff we already know. Please know, I appreciate every one of you. I pray for you regularly. And I'm counting on each of us as a team, pulling together, keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus. And when our eyes aren't quite fixed on Jesus, reminding each other to get our eyes fixed on him, the author and perfecter of our faith. And as we do that, we'll continue to advance the ministries of Keystone Conference to reach our communities for Christ. Thanks for letting me take just a few minutes to share this with you.